I'm Aaron, and this is Beer Talk Mississippi at the Beer House in downtown Ocean Springs. So we've got Mark from Biloxi Brewing Company, and I'm Aaron with F.E.B Distributing, and we're going to play Guess That Beer. Beer House has selected 4 beers for us to try blind and try to identify which one's which. So let's do it.
First one we got blonde, Biloxi blonde.
That's what I chose too.
Correct. All right.
That one took me about a half a second to figure that one out.
All right. So beer number 2.
Accumulation.
I went with accumulation too.
It's
it is.
yeah.
It is accumulation? Sweet.
Yes.
All right.
Beer number 3.
Put the same thing I did. A beat amber.
I'll beat Amber.
Yingling.
Yeah.
Oh.
Beer number 4.
I was thinking Creature Habit.
I'm gonna go with Rogue Hazelutely Chocolate.
See, and that's the one. Did I or did I not ask you about Rogue? I think I got cheated a little bit there.
All right, so we've got Mark Murray here from Biloxi Brewing Company. Thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting
Cheers.
me. Cheers.
Absolutely. So do you want to give us a little history about Biloxi Brewing Company?
We've been around since 2015. We started contract brewing with Lazy Magnolia. We did that for 2 years to see about market viability and just kind of see how marketable our product was. And so a year and a half in, we had some pretty good numbers. We were 1,200 barrels, and we felt that was a good lead-off point that we could go ahead and start looking for a building. So in early 2016, we started looking for our building. We located a building and started renovating June, July-ish of 2016, and spent the next 6 months going around looking at equipment, evaluating what all we wanted in the brew house that we were going to have, and we settled on American Beer Equipment out of Lincoln, Nebraska. And I mean, it's just been top-notch equipment, and so we got all that in, got it installed, and put our first beer out in late February of 2017. So we've been in our facility now for a year. We've just celebrated last weekend, celebrated our 1-year anniversary. And last year we put out just under 1,000 barrels in our own facility, which was nice to, have those numbers. And again, we're something that we're doing on our own now. And
Now, where's the brewery located?
so the brewery is located just north of the baseball stadium in Biloxi on Bone Street, just on Howard, and about a half a block up north of Howard Avenue.
Cool. So how's the back in July they changed the laws a little bit to allow for consumption on site. How's the tap room been doing for you?
Well, let's go ahead and do another cheers on that right there. And so that's been wonderful. Before, when we first moved in, so we had 5 months where we could offer tours, and we could sell tours, and then we could offer our samples. And I mean, it was nice. People could come in, see exactly what the facility was about. Doing the tours were fun. It's an educational experience, and so being able to start July 1st and actually bring that into the new age with a tap room, we've seen a lot more visitors. I was honestly expecting more locals. We do have our locals. We have our regulars that come in. We've got our people that come in on Tuesday night and get a growler and go home, and that's great. I mean, it's great to have locals. But with the casinos, I've been surprised at how many visitors from all over. There are times when we'll be in the tap room on a Wednesday night, and we will have 20 people in there, none of them from Mississippi.
Wow.
And that part has been a little astonishing to me, that they come in. The number of times I've heard we flew into Biloxi and this was the first place we came, or we flew into Gulfport and this was the first place we came.
That's awesome.
And that has been an interesting aspect of it to me.
For sure.
Meeting people from all over, and it's been fun.
So what would you say is, I guess, the most surprising thing about working in a brewery? What's different than what you thought it was going to be?
Well, we all knew it's about cleaning, right? Cleaning is your number one priority when you're in a brewery. So I would say that we expected that. What I didn't expect is being torn between two places. So you want to be at the brewery and you want to work at the brewery and you want to do all the things you have to do to put that beer out. But the other side of that is I can't be at the brewery. I have to be on the street and I have to be out in the market with you guys selling that beer. And so, being torn between two places is the hardest part about being in a brewery.
I mean, that's to be expected though, I'm sure.
Yes.
So just a fun random question I like to ask people from breweries. What was your first craft beer that really got you into drinking craft beer?
And it's probably going to be a shock to you. It was a cream ale.
Okay.
It's Liebachsteiner cream ale. The only place that you can get it is at Williamsburg, Virginia, in Colonial Williamsburg.
Wow. Can you pronounce that one more time?
Liebachsteiner cream ale. What happened was my wife's a history buff and a history teacher, and so one early 2000 summer, 4th of July, we went to Colonial Williamsburg to experience 4th of July. It was just really neat. Patrick Henry on the balcony at the State House reading the Declaration of Independence in full, colonial garb. It was just really, really neat. And so we were in Chowning's Tavern, which is, again, it was a tavern that Thomas Jefferson went to, that John Adams was at. So when you're in these buildings, you're experiencing a little bit of that life, as obviously, in today's times that we can. But anyway, so I was there, and the first beer that I saw on the list was a cream ale, being from South Mississippi in the early 2000s. Never had a cream ale before. And so we got it and just absolutely fell in love. It was such an easy drinking beer. And when we came back home, I looked all over.
Couldn't find anything.
Tried to find a cream ale. I was like, I really want to try that. And so that led to, if you can't find it and you can't buy it, you make it. And that was my introduction to home brewing.
Nice.
And so that got me, the first beers that I made were cream ales to try to replicate that beer. I recently, this past Thanksgiving, went back to Williamsburg and had the beer again.
As good as you remember it?
It was as good as I remember it, slightly different than what I remember, and the beers that I made still were close but not exactly the same, and so that's the fun part. And so I was able to go back and have that beer again, and so now I'm gonna attempt it again to see if I can brew some of that and get closer.
Got for Biloxi Cream Ale coming soon.
Maybe.
So I'm very familiar with Biloxi Blonde. That beer is everywhere on the Gulf Coast. We're drinking the Black Gold right now. It's a foreign extra stout.
It's a foreign extra stout, 42 IBU. The style with the foreign extra stout, much similar to an IPA, the story is, so it can travel. They had to add hops so that the beer didn't spoil. So a foreign export stout or a foreign extra stout, you have the increased hops, again, so for spoilage. And that was shipped mainly to the Caribbean islands, and that's kind of where that beer showed up down here.
Cool.
And so it's a little drier. It's not a dry Irish stout, but it's a little bit drier. It's 7.1% alcohol. So again, you got to balance the malt and you've got to balance the hops. And so even though we added more hops to it to give it that dry hoppiness, it still balances very well with the malt base. That it's not, too crazy on either side of that spectrum.
It's very, very drinkable for sure.
Yes.
So we were talking earlier about some potential stuff you might have coming out in the near future. Can you give everybody a preview about something new you might have coming out?
Well, staying on the dark side, we do have a black IPA that we're working on. It's actually available in the tap room right now. So go to the tap room, give it a try, give us your opinion. So we're on batch number 2. This batch is a little bit more aromatic than the first batch. So the first batch kind of put some hops in the beginning and had the bitterness, and so we got that, but we didn't have the aromatics that we wanted. So we went back and added some at late boil to bring those aromatics out. And so it's you know, you're always trying to tweak it before you actually put it on the market. And that's, you know, one of the great things about the tap room, that we can actually do small samples of those and get some feedback before we do a big market push.
Awesome. And then I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but you were talking about a beer that had some syrup in it.
Yes, Woodruff Syrup.
Woodruff Syrup.
And so traditional German Berliner Weiss has Woodruff Syrup as a option. And so in the German style, you take your beer and then you add some of the syrup to it. Now Woodruff Syrup in Germany is used on, it's a syrup, so it's used on cakes, it's used on in beers, it's used in just general cooking. It's a simple syrup. Okay. They get the syrup from a ground cover plant. It's just kind of like a forest ground cover. I've never been able to get a good answer as to exactly how they create the syrup, whether it's like a root beer where they extract it from the root, or if it's from the flower. Think like honeysuckle, right?
Okay.
So one of those ways they get that sweetness and create a syrup out of it. And so we took the Biloxi Blonde, being a German style beer, and so then we took a sample of one of our batches, and we lowered the pH to kind of give it that tartness, not quite the same tartness of a Berliner Weiss, but close. But then we added that syrup back to bring that sweetness back. Okay. And it gives it this earthy vanilla. Some people have said they pick up a little bit of banana in it, and it's a fantastic beer. And you know, it's again trying to play with German styles. Most of our beers are German styles, and so it's been fun pulling some of those samples out. We've got our mojito beer that we did the same thing. It's on tap here.
It's on tap back there.
And we again, that beer took the blonde, lowered the pH, added some limes and some mint to it, and you know, it replicates a mojito. And so we just always playing with, you know,
fun stuff.
Trying to be creative.
Well, we definitely appreciate you coming in and talking about the brewery. Excited to try some of the new beers y'all have coming out, and of course drinking our favorites already. You know, if there's one thing I could say, it's that people need to get over to the brewery and see the facility, meet y'all, and drink your beer, and hopefully find some new favorites.
Yes, sir. We're open. We're open from Tuesday through Friday from 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and then we're open from 11 o'clock to 6 o'clock on Saturdays, and we do tours on Saturdays.
Cool.
And so keep a look at our Facebook page. So we do some specials various days. On Saturdays, sometimes we're trying to work on getting some food trucks and do some events like that. Back we had Oktoberfest, and coming up in probably April, we're going to do our second annual Jambalaya Cook-Off. And that's going to be co-sponsored with the Coastal Conservation Association to raise money for them to make sure that our fishermen, our kids, can have a place to fish.
Yeah.
You know, generations ahead to still have those speckled trout and red snappers
and of course
redfish.
Good beer to go with it.
And good beer to go with it.
Thanks. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Be sure to join us every Tuesday for half price of Mississippi beers.